Welcome back, Ninja community and persons that want to learn some Psi basics. Let's try to keep it basic in this video. Okay, so before I get into the basic techniques of a Psi, I will go over my quality statement disclaimer, mostly out of liability, so bear with me real quick. But the in short version is basically at your own risk. But here we go. So the viewer understands my quality statement disclaimer video. Additionally agrees that this video could be treated as is with ballistic protection, which in short means it don't have a seal on it. Therefore, I don't guarantee the techniques and or your application of the techniques. And if you're watching this video with the intention of using any of its content in committing a crime, that is additionally a crime. Actually, using my content in committing crimes is an additional crime. Also, the viewer agrees that this is my intellectual property that I'm allowing others to view. Okay, so some of the basic movements with a Psi is how to hold it. So I'll demonstrate that while I'm sitting down. Okay, so you have here, yes, here, as punching with your index finger on the Psi is not something very ninja. There are a few arts that practice this. However, a real ninja is only going to punch. They'll probably not punch with their finger on the Psi. If their finger is on this end of the handle, it is to train to catch it to throw it back around. Okay, so the other time that a ninja will have their finger on, their index finger on the handle portion is when they offer the diamond of peace. Otherwise, they're going to be using the pointy end. Okay? Because a good defense against a Psi, especially if someone is throwing a punch with their index finger on the handle, and typically mostly using the handle end, a ninja, a real shinobi, is going to do a parrying maneuver, right? Similar to an outward block, hoping to catch at the hand. They will grab the handle with their finger, snap their opponent's finger, and then stab them with their own Psi. Okay, so there might be some arts that practice this as an art form. Maybe real shinobi train people a certain way so they would lose at the hands of a shinobi. So, anyways, so the basic ways to hold a Psi. A real shinobi is going to be punching, if he uses this end, right, he's going to be punching like this. And holding with your index finger on it, make sure that you have, it makes sure that your hand is properly positioned on the Psi. Okay? And we'll keep it basic. Okay. Transitioning is just as important as learning how to hold it on different positions. So to transition, you come around to the side here and catch here. You're holding it like this, typically with your thumb here, holding one Psi, right? So to go back, you simply slip your thumb there, put your index finger there, and slide it down. There you go. That is position 1, position 2. Now to get to position 3, you go back here, you come around. So there's position 3, right? And you don't leave your thumb here. You move it back to the side. Okay. So you could go back here, go here, and here. So that's 1, 2, and 3. That's fairly simple. It's not like the other complicated moves with Psi that's like, you know, holding 4 at the same time. These were typically carried in 3s. A lot of times people will say that the first one was thrown. However, it's been known that people would be carrying up to 6 of these. Very rarely would someone be carrying 6 of these when it was carried as a weapon. Before that, it was used as a farming tool. So, I'm over that for a second. Okay, so the handle was probably the heaviest part of the tool as a farming tool. The curve, if you can see this curve here was added because of training incidences in dojos to prevent people from getting injured as badly. So if you're going to spar with weapons, and I highly advise against sparring with weapons, but if you don't heed my advice to that, there is training weapons that make those a lot cheaper than hospital visits. So this, even a training weapon, you have the risk of eye injuries, right? So again, if you don't heed my advice of not sparring with weapons, even if you're using training weapons, I highly advise that you invest in eye protection, as eye protection and training weapons in the long run is a lot cheaper than emergency room hospital visits. So getting back to the side basics, of course, that is pretty much in large part of the basics there. Okay, how to hold it. Here, and here. Now there's also positions, let's see, trying to keep this basic, okay? And here's another training tip, and this is usually with any weapon, is when you learn a technique, practice it on your offhand first, so that when you switch to your dominant hand, you intuitively know the movement better, as you give one hand the ability to catch up to the technique. If you're ambidextric, just pick an offhand, just get over it, pick an offhand, or find what's naturally in tune and work with that. Okay, so the next thing, of course, anytime you learn a new technique, it's always good to learn how to move with the technique, so that if you ever wind up in a real fight or real situation where that move might be relevant, you could actually use the technique. With a sai, the good thing about a sai is that it can emulate other weapons in how it's used, right? Like in some situations, you could emulate using it similar to a knife. In other situations, you can utilize it similar to just a shtick. In other ones, you can utilize how to do disarms with pistols and things of that nature, as it has this little thing here. Okay, let's see. Oh, so going back to when it was a farming tool, is this these right here were a little bit longer, and this was a little bit shorter. As a weapon, see, these are the manufacturers, at least from the dimension I'm from, the manufacturers stopped selling these because of training incidents in dojos where people would get parts of their neck torn off, like this little hook part right here would catch like right behind here. They would get part of the muscle tissue torn out, like literally torn out. Horrible, horrible training incidences where the manufacturers would not sell these without making some adjustment to it to prevent such horrible, horrible, gruesome injuries. So a real sai meant for fighting is going to be pointed without that curve. And the end, even though it's blunted, still can cause some injuries, right? Now see this one right here, I did some work on it because I've had these since I was 13, so I've had these for like 2 decades, over 2 decades. I've did some work on the handle where I wrapped it in leather, like real leather, and used lacquer, and it seems to have a cool rustic look to it. Now, they were originally silver, and now they're this, you can definitely tell this has been through a lot of training. Okay, so learning to move with a new technique is important in being able to fight or use a technique in a real fight. Okay, so, and you can also probably use it similar to a workout. Okay, so I'll demonstrate just walking forward and backwards while doing those movements right there, right? So just learning to walk forward and backwards. Okay? So if your footwork of whatever style or form you practice is solid, you can build on it. So you don't have to change your fundamentals around just to facilitate using a particular weapon in your own particular workout routine or what have you. You could build on whatever solid foundation you have to work with, right? So doing this right here, if you use like a kung fu style and you do pivots, you could just work on doing a workout with doing pivots, and whatever moves that you have, you can build on that. Or if you do like C-lat and you have like the circle step, you can build on that. So it's really important that when you first learn a technique that you start training to move with it, okay? As just doing basic movements, working into being able to combine it with combinations that you already know. Okay, so if you watched the video so far, you should probably hit like hard like a ninja and subscribe to my channel to be alerted for when I do videos on YouTube. And of course, like, comment, subscribe, share. And you can find me on Facebook under my artist name or my 10th Ninja name, Mel-El. That's M-E-L-E-L. And I have an Instagram, but I'm not going to tell you what my Instagram name is. You'll just have to be ninja and go figure that out on your own. Okay, we'll continue more side basics here. Okay, so once you've got this part down, right, where you hold it here, and you have some strikes with it, right, it's important to learn to do those different swapping hands. And it usually takes someone a good bit of training just to be able to do that well, right? So I don't expect someone to just run through a video and be able to intuitively do it as well as I'm doing it now. Okay, so learning some basic strikes with it, incorporate the strikes you're already familiar with. If you have like a punch that goes horizontal as opposed to vertical, or this way, right, where the knuckles would be vertical, you could build on that, right? And see, this right here, context of a punch this way, is mostly if someone was throwing a punch, you'd be sliding across the top of their arm, hopefully hitting near the collarbone. Okay. But if you, I think if you're a boxer and you wanted to incorporate some boxing moves with a side, it would be easy to do that move of a hook, like the real boxer's hook, not some haymaker, but from here, that position where they go to the side as their opponent has outstepped them, the good hook shot, right? The good right hook and left hook. So from this position is basically here, okay? And it's the alignment of this is mostly to protect your arm from incoming strikes, right? Okay, so another basic strike with this. Now, a lot of times what you have with this weapon is catches and grabs.